by 5.
Drei Gläser.
2. That's no moon.
What's up, everybody? We are live. It is episode 17 of the Hardcore Casual Podcast. He is Jay of F1 Podcast fame.
Yes, I am.
I am Mason of Radio Infamy, and we are the conversation at the table behind you. What's up, guys? It has been quite the week. What is going on in your week, Jay?
Well, I mean, it's busy as ever, and it's obviously busy in yours. I know you and I have had a hard time kind of connecting this week, and we've both had a lot going on. A lot of it good, and a lot of it just it's the week. Here we are.
Yes,
but man, I'm excited about tonight. I think we got a lot of good content.
Me too.
And we're gonna create so much work for you. After
yeah, and it's going to be a lot of good stuff though. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
not a lot of like super heavy, big breaking news or anything like that, but a lot of conversational stuff, a lot of good topics out there that I'm looking forward to. But yeah, it has been quite the week. We've had some vet things going on, we've had some family things going on, but we have made it. We are sliding in here, and I'm ready to get it covered. I did want to just put out there that again, we have a goal right now. Our current goal is 100 subscribers. We got to 50. Thank you, everybody. And our current goal is to get to 100. We are currently sitting at 69 subscribers. So giggity, but we still want to move past that. It's fun. It's a nice meme number, but we want to keep moving. We can't stay here.
I feel like we'll hit 100 before the end of like next week.
I hope so. Perhaps some of these conversations will help us get there.
Yeah.
But we have quite a few things on the list to talk about. So we're going to talk about the state of play that just happened with PlayStation, and then also going on later this week, Friday and the weekend, we have Xbox has a game showcase. We have the Summer Games Fest, but from our good friend Jeff Keighley, and then we also have a gameplay reveal for a game that I'm not going to mention right now because we're going to get to it later. Yeah. And that's going to be a big conversation because I know Jay and I are both incredibly excited about it. And I have some viewer comments. We will read some more viewer comments.
The old mailbox.
Yes. So there we go. That's what I've got so far. But I know that Jay's got some games lined up already that he wants to kind of touch on. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Jay.
Well, it's a matter. Do you want to talk about the one that we're going to talk about next week as well once the gameplay comes out, or?
Yeah, we should start it. We should talk about it at least. Get it out there.
Place to start, and that place is James Bond 007 First Light, coming out from IO Interactive, who is the studio, of course, that brought us Hitman. And man, what a great series Hitman was. And it was weird because I've always said, man, what if somebody just put some hair on the guy and gave him a tuxedo? I mean, this would basically be a James Bond game already. So I know we're both super excited about it. It'll be interesting to talk about it right now. And then after the gameplay reveal, be able to go, well, we were right about some things and not about some of the others, but super looking forward to this. Glad they're going with a young James Bond so we can kind of build him up from scratch, although he does favor a very young Pierce Brosnan very much.
And he's also Irish. The voice actor is Irish as well.
Well, there we go. So what are your initial thoughts, man?
Well, so I had forgotten that this was a thing until I saw an article Friday or Saturday of last week, and it mentioned IO Interactive and the 007 game. And I was like, oh, that's right. I had completely forgotten about this because, like Jay, that was a thing where going back, that would always have been a perfect match because IOI have like perfected this sort of espionage formula where you really truly can do whatever you want. That's a tagline that a bunch of games claim.
Yes.
that you can go and you can accomplish your different objectives in whatever way that you want. But usually it's either completely meaningless or it means that there's perhaps two ways to do it or something like that. Whereas
Right.
with Hitman, it truly is your imagination is the limit. They throw all these things there. So I had forgotten that it existed, and then saw that they had announced the name. And first of all, I will say that the name sounds like a Destiny expansion. I'm not a fan of the name First
I hate
Light.
the name.
It
It
doesn't
also
sound it doesn't have that
it,
immediate, like, gravitas that some of the 007 movies have, it just
it
doesn't
it's
it
lacking an Ian Fleming title. Is my
yeah,
biggest.
it
That's
it
what I
doesn't
said.
it doesn't really reach out and grab you, but title is minor compared to what we're gonna get, and I'm excited. So, I know that that was part of um, the whole, state of play, and we got to see some teases of it. I think there might have been like micro touches of gameplay, maybe one or two instances there that looked like they could have possibly been some very brief gameplay, but primarily just some setup, some story, some cinematic stuff, and that's about it. But I
They
am
showed all of our big ticket supporting characters. I mean, they
yep.
showed M, they showed Q, they showed they showed M's, right hand person that's always kind of a prick in every movie and book, and Moneypenny, of course, who absolutely killed us by ruining the classic lined Bond, James Bond. She stole that from him in that trailer, so kind of pissed me off. But
And some of these, at least some of them, maybe not all of the voice actors are this way, but at least some of them are also the visual representation of the character as well. They've clearly done. They've been given the Death Stranding treatment. There you go. Take a drink. I mentioned it. They've been given the Death Stranding treatment in that they are the likeness in game as well.
well,
So
it looked like M is being played by Rekha Sharma, who I've seen in like Battlestar Galactica. She's been in a lot of things, and I've always loved her. She was in Star Trek Discovery.
is she the voice? Is she that voice lady that's got that crazy voice from The
No, she's
Expanse?
no, no, no.
Oh,
That's not her. This is let me see if I can find
it
the
was
trailer.
you mentioned the name, and I can never remember what that woman's name is, but I know she does a lot of sci-fi. But every time you hear her name, you immediately recognize her because she's just got that crazy voice that just you listen.
Yeah, hold on. I got a picture of her right here, and I know you've seen her.
I'm sure.
But yeah, she was in Battlestar Galactica. She was one of the final five, actually. Spoilers for anybody that hasn't watched that.
But while you're doing that, one of the things that I think that we're going to have some fun talking about, and this is like Jay said, we'll find out in mere hours how wrong or right we were as they reveal the gameplay tomorrow. But what I'm very curious about, and perhaps maybe even Jay might disagree with me on some of this here, but I'm curious about the gameplay in large part because we know that IOI, again, like I said, have mastered the espionage gameplay that is Hitman,
Yeah.
and the open arena that they kind of have where you can just do whatever you want and you can become anyone that you want. And there's okay, I do recognize her,
Okay.
but you can become anyone that you want and you can play through in all these different ways of doing it, and that works for Hitman because that's Hitman's, that's Agent 47's mo, is to become whoever he needs to be to get where he
Right.
needs to be and then go on. But I so while I think that there are going to be elements that obviously they'll be able to move directly over to a 007 game, there is some of it that I think would not really work or not be best for a 007 game. So while 007 may at times have a false identity or something like that, where they'll set up an identity for him like Casino Royale or something like that, where he goes in and he's doing this whole thing. So he might have a false identity set up, but he's not this thing where he just goes and steals somebody's hat and jacket and masquerades as that person until he gets to
Right.
the next thing. So it can't be just a straight copy paste of the Hitman formula. So they can certainly use some aspects of it, but they're going to have to do something that's original and exclusive to it. Where I would not think that it should be sort of just identity hopping for the gameplay.
I wanted to say this, and this might be controversial among me and you, maybe not so much the regular community, but um, I really liked where they went with the Daniel Craig series in regard to gadgets,
Oh yeah,
where they kind of toned it down. They made them more functional. They made them more realistic and viable. They weren't just gimmicks, right?
I'm
But in
always
a
a fan whenever they do that.
but in a game, I am hoping at the very least that they give us, because Hitman's more of a disguise guy and method guy. James Bond's more of a let me use what's available to me guy. And so I hope they do. I mean, I saw the Aston Martin's a character in and of itself. I saw the old 63 Aston Martin DB5 in there, but and I'm not asking for, Gatling cannons to come out of the headlights, but he's going to need some gadgets to get him through some of these segments. And in a game, gadgets work versus a
Yes, as
movie.
long as they're not too crazy, I still
Yes.
want them to be very grounded in a way that you could believe that it's happening. But there is definitely a line that you can blur where even if it's maybe you're able to stretch the line a bit more than you could for a movie and it still feel grounded in a game because Hitman does that where Hitman has some absolutely outlandish setups and scenarios and ways that you can do something, but you're still because it is a game, you can still
Right.
like let that sort of you can let it slide. Like, in Hitman, you can actually literally use a banana peel
Well,
to make somebody fall. Where if you saw that in a movie, you're like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But
I can. Oh, I was gonna say I can tell you my number one gadget in the latest Hitman trilogy was the coin. If you go back and watch any of my old gameplay, I use that more than anything else.
yep.
Ding.
Yeah, that's
But
that's how I get people to move. Like, oh, there's
yeah,
somebody at that door. Like, not anymore. Like,
but I'm not saying that we should be able to float down the Nile River in a hollowed out alligator carcass, a la Octopussy with Roger Moore. Great movie, by the way. But you know, and we don't need the jetpack. And one thing I did think was cool though, and I think you'll like this too, is that one of the pre-order bonuses is a golden Walther.
nice. I did
Yeah,
not know that.
yeah. So if you pre-order the game, and I didn't even make it, I didn't even get to look at the other. I was so mesmerized by the golden Walther PPK that I just missed all the other pre-order bonuses.
Also, probably no one more excited about this than Walther. Their business probably about to go through the roof.
Yeah, them and Aston. Aston always makes a ton of money
Well,
when
well, one is a
non.
bit more obtainable than the other,
Very, very true. Very true. But
especially
yeah,
here in
man,
Texas.
super excited about this coming out. I don't even. I mean, I didn't see any kind of release date on that trailer. I think I was so taken aback I wouldn't have saw it if they'd have flashed it right in front of my eyes.
Yeah, I can try to look it up and see if they've even announced it. But here's one thing though. So talking about what it might not share with Hitman, in that we both agree James Bond just isn't, like I say, he's just not the identity hopping kind of
Right.
way to get things done. It doesn't fit. So they'll have to find their own way. I definitely think that's a thing where having that is going to be a good thing and it will be helpful, but it can't be the loop. That can't be the gameplay loop. So they're going to have to come up with something that's compelling, that's exclusive to the 007 series that they're working on. But the other thing is that the whole deal with Hitman is that the main goal that you're trying to do is to avoid any sort of confrontation. You don't want a gunfight. You don't want a hand-to-hand fight. Your whole deal is to kind of get to a point,
Yeah.
pick your spot, snipe somebody, or make a chandelier fall on top of them, or a stuffed alligator, or something like that. It's some crazy thing where you're really not doing anything. So you're sort of making your way undetected somewhere. You do your thing, and then you make your way undetected out, and that's a successful run. Anytime that you have gotten into any sort of confrontation in Hitman, aside from the fact that it's very difficult to actually complete the mission at that point once you actually get into a confrontation, but it's not very fluid. If you get into a gunfight,
Oh man,
it's not very fluid at all in Hitman.
I think they're trying to
The
show
the
you that's what not to do.
Yeah, the hand-to-hand combat aspects of it are kind of janky. So if 007 is in fact going to be more heavily reliant on some of these things, where obviously it's not going to be constant shootouts all the time, but surely you're going to have some times where you're exchanging fire, going to
Yeah.
have some times where you're doing a bit of hand-to-hand combat, very a la Mission Impossible kind of a sort
Yeah.
of thing. So I'm wondering how much they've been able to polish up the actual sort of action sequences that they've really been able to put on the back burner for years because they weren't really an essential part of the Hitman games.
Yeah, and so another and I always think of the opening sequence to Goldeneye, because not the game, the movie, although the game was very similar, but on the dam, he has to sneak in through the top of the dam, and he rappels down the side of it, and he comes in through the bathroom and drops into the stall, and we get our first shot at humor in the movie because the guy's toilet blows up or whatever. But I think they need to create sequences like that. I also think the game, and I can't believe I'm going to reference one of our previous episodes on unsung hero games, but the game needs to be dialogue heavy at certain points, sort of like Alpha Protocol, where you have like a direct response, a suave response, and a neutral,
Some
kind of this
RPG
neutral.
elements then.
Yeah, so I think it needs that, because James Bond does that. There's times when he's super direct. I'm thinking about the fencing scene with Toby Stevens in Die Another Day, but there are times when he's at the bar and it needs to be the suave answer. Um, so I think about the scene at the bar with Rosamund Pike in what's the other one? You Only Live Twice, or whatever it was. But yeah, so I think there needs to be a lot. So I think they're going to need to incorporate some Alpha Protocol / Mass Effect stuff in there as well.
That would be awesome. I would love that. Speaking of dialogue, we do have Heath Ledger in the chat here. I have my suspicions and doubts as to whether it's the real Heath Ledger or not, given his untimely passing. But he says hello, so hello to you too, sir.
Hello to you too, sir.
That does bring up another thing, though. You mentioned sort of the way to handle perhaps some dialogue options or something along those lines, and of course we mentioned that they'll have to find some way to kind of like polish up the action sequences. Another thing is the levels. Is it going to be a thing where it's like, okay, this is your mission, this is the arena that it's happening at, go do your thing and do James Bond things and get this done? Or is it going to be more like games past, where it's very linear, where it's a kind of a path that you walk and you have to go through levels and you have to clear various rooms or hallways or whatever of enemies to get to the next thing? So I do wonder if it's going to be one large playground or if it's going to be more linear, where you have to go from A to B and then leave at C to get out.
Well, if I'm thinking about Hitman, they never gave us like an open world. The scene you were in, and I always called them scenes because it felt more like a movie than a game, but the scenes you were in were as open as they could be. I'm thinking about the showstopper, the Paris.
I mean, you'd have entire cities at your disposal, so yeah.
And that's another thing. I think they need to travel extensively in this game. I think that'll help sell it and hit some of those places that we like Morocco, and places that James Bond really kind of fits. Paris, those kind of joints. But um, it'll be nice to see what they do with that from an open. I mean, if it was open world, I'd be fine with it, as long as it didn't get like Assassin's Creed
Oh yeah,
Odyssey.
I don't mean open world like GTA
Okay.
or something like that. I
Okay.
meant just open as in like Hitman. They send you to like a city, and then you
Yeah.
have access to this entire city, as opposed to, okay, you walk through this door and now you have to follow this line to get to where you're going.
Oh
You
yeah.
actually have this whole thing that you can play with. So that's what I meant by like an open sandbox. So
Okay. Awesome.
that kind of openness as to whether or not they'll allow that to happen. And another thing that is going to be interesting to determine or find out whenever it comes to the structure of how they lay out the game, is because Hitman, that every single thing that you go to, you know what your mission's going to be. Your mission's going to be to take somebody out, at least one person, sometimes
Yeah.
multiple. But that's your job. You go there, you take somebody out. That is the mission. And the variety comes from the area that they're in, the way that they're protected, or their behaviors, all that kind of stuff. But James Bond, that's not the case. James Bond doesn't go and kills. Well, I mean, I guess he kind of does tend to kill anybody everywhere he goes, but it's not the intention. It's not the mission. So I do
Yeah.
wonder if what that structure is going to be. If instead of, hey, go here, kill this person every level, if it will be something like Casino Royale, go here, get 100K up on the house, and retire for the evening, or something like that. I don't know, but what will the mission structure actually be like?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, let's say you have, and I'm just going to use this as an example. Say you have Q, or not Q, but M in your ear on an earpiece, or you have a source already that you've worked up, and You go to an area and you go, hey, you need to meet Bob Not So Bright tonight at 7 o'clock. So go hang out in the casino for a while, and we'll let you know when Bob's on scene, and you can go meet with him. And maybe during that piece, you meet a couple other people that are able to give you intel on Bob, so you go armed with more ammunition when you have your meeting with Bob, or you can just not do any of that, right, and just do what you want. So you know,
So if you were gonna place money on this, let's see, where do you come on? So as far as structure, whether it be a series of open arenas like Hitman or something more linear like previous 007 games, which do you lean towards it being?
well, considering that this is IO's first James Bond game, and they have a proven formula with Hitman, I think we're going to have multiple open sandbox areas, because why reinvent the wheel that you haven't broken? You know what I mean? So
100% agree.
stay
I'm
with
like
what
they
you know, and that way you can focus. Okay, we're going to do what we did in Hitman, but let's focus on the story. Let's focus on the content within those sandboxes. Why are we going to London in the first place? Are we just going there because we want to go to London? What are we doing? Kind of thing. So um yeah, I think they stay with the formula they know, and then maybe if they get good reviews, they can play around, start toying with some new ideas, and they become known as being a James Bond game instead of being known for their hit and stuff. So
Well,
I don't know.
I 100% agree with all that because it's one of those things where IO got it for a reason.
Yeah,
They went with IO for a reason, and that reason is because they did Hitman. So dance with who brought you on that
yeah,
situation. If they wanted you to be able to make this game because of your work with Hitman, go ahead and use the things that worked with Hitman, and then work around them to bend them to your will. Do you think that the mission structure will be go here, kill person, or do you think that it will have more variety in that it will not be kill something in every mission? Or I'm sure the option will either to kill random people, random bad guys, but
yeah.
that the actual objective will be kill someone or accomplish a particular task that will then allow the story to move forward.
I think very few missions will be hit missions.
I agree.
I think it's going to be, hey, so and so's got a file on this new biological weapon, and you need to break into their estate and download this file and get it to blah blah blah. I think that's going to be more of the mission style than, hey, go here and whack this guy.
100%. I think it will be an international like chase
Yeah,
trying to get and they mention in this state of play they mention in one section 009 and how dangerous he is. So I would guess that you were going after a rogue agent who knows all of your tricks, has gone through the same training that you have, and you're going after this rogue agent. So what I anticipate it being is a globe trotting chase, you chasing this guy from one continent and one city to the next, and accomplishing things like Jay said there, where you're like, oh, steal a file, do this, do that, with the ultimate goal of being to getting to Agent 009. That's what I think will do. But I 100% agree. I don't think that they're going to say, oh, yeah, you have to kill somebody here. I think they might do a thing like Hitman, where once you go through the game, then you then have access to this arena and you can kind of play
yeah.
around with it even more. You can create your own missions that you can share online with people and friends. I think they'll do that kind of thing again. But yeah, I think whenever you're playing the game, you're playing the story, I think that it's going to be varied and that it's not going to be just about killing people. I think you're going to have tasks that you're going to do and tasks you're going to complete, and that's going to move the story forward. And I'm actually looking forward to that
Yeah,
variety
and
and that change up.
you can't have a Bond movie or story without a Bond girl too. So I have a feeling there's going to be some seduction stuff in there. Um, a couple comments I wanted to make too about this game is, I always think, what was the linchpin that somebody said, IO, you get the license to James Bond? And I always think of that very first mission on Hitman 1, Paris Showstopper, where he goes to the fashion show. And that whole mission didn't, I mean, yeah, you had to hit the two people. I mean, there was no doubt about it. You had to take them out. That was the mission. But leading up to that, do you know how many different things you did? I mean, or could have done. I mean, there was, I'm, pardon the pun, there was 47 different things you could have done before you got to where you did the hit. And there was multiple options of poisoning people with their drinks. There was going down into the cellar where the wine cellar was, and sprucing up the wine a little bit. There was all kinds of different things. So I think we'll see that in this game coming up also. And then other pieces, I'm already thinking about DLC. I was talking to a friend at work today, and I was like, what would be cool is taking some of the favorite James Bond movies or stories from the Ian Fleming books and making those DLC episodes as a way to build up his resume, and then letting that carry forward to future games.
Well, that would be awesome, and that would be great ways to sort of be able to replay those things. And another thing where this would be, it's not DLC, but it is something that Hitman did that really kept it fresh, where they would have these limited time targets, and they had all sorts of people do this. They had Conor McGregor, Mickey Rourke,
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage as be these particular roles, and for a week, 2 weeks, they just had this mission. It wasn't really DLC, but it was just like this throwaway mission. It didn't actually contribute to the story or anything like that. But the whole point was you have to go and you have to take out this target, and you could only do it once. Once you succeeded, that was it. That was your one playthrough. So it was this very limited time. You had a limited window that you could play it, and then once you completed it, it was done. And I think that's a really clever idea. And it also, while Hitman doesn't have a lot of sort of cinematic cutscenes or anything like that, it's really more done through your handler's voice instructions before every
Right.
mission. Obviously, it's changing in 007 because we already saw a lot of the cutscene stuff. That was what the trailer mainly was. But in these little missions, obviously they did all the mocap and facial capture and all this stuff for these celebrities, and I think they're clearly putting what they've learned there into 007, or vice versa, depending on how long they've been working on the 007.
Yeah, and I love the way Hitman did that. Although after they released World of Assassination, that's now changed a little bit. They rotate them in, and you can still do them, but they're still timed. And like after a couple weeks, they'll rotate out. They'll rotate in, Sean Bean's episode, which was great, by the way. I didn't get to play the Conor McGregor when it got pulled for his scandal before I got to play it. So
He took himself
anyway,
out.
yeah,
So there we go. I'm looking forward to it, and perhaps we will record a little bonus thing that tomorrow after we get to watch that. Maybe it'll be a watch along, or maybe we'll just talk about what we saw. But I definitely want to get a video out on that one because I'm looking forward to that. I want to keep an eye on it as it draws closer because I'm a huge fan of the sort of rev, what's the evolved Hitman formula
yeah,
that
and
they came up with.
we should be able to play the trailer, man, and it'll be Friday night. I'm down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever helps us move forward, and I think stuff like this does, because it's current and it's stuff that not only you and I are interested in, but the world over. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody over 25 that's not a James Bond fan. I mean,
And
honestly.
and this is one of the I don't know. This is one of the rare marriages where you hear that somebody's making a game. So there's a lot of times you'll hear that somebody's making a game, and you're like, oh, okay, let's see what they do with it. Like whenever Respawn got the Star Wars game, and it was like, oh, Respawn, who's known for all these first person shooters, they got the rights to make a single player Star Wars game, and that's how we got Jedi Fallen Order, and those turned out to be great. But while I was intrigued by it, I was just like, okay, let's see how it works out. But this is one where I'm genuinely excited for. Whenever you find out that IO is making a 007 game, you're like, perfect. Who better? It was like whenever we heard that CD Projekt Red was making a Cyberpunk game. We're like, perfect. Who better? Of course, that one turned out poorly before it didn't, and they kind of redeemed themselves. But or like whenever you found out that Larian Studios was making Baldur's Gate 3, where you're like, oh man, this is
Yeah.
gonna be insane. Even whenever before you know anything about it, you just know their previous work. So this is one of those where it's like, okay, these guys are making 007. I'm in. I'm excited. I'm curious to see how it works out, and I want to know how accurate our assumptions are.
Yeah, not to mention, I just want to throw this out here from the standpoint of this franchise. There's not too many franchises out there that can say they have 26 movies. That's a lot. I mean, even Dominic Toretto can't do that. So
They're not all winners, but
yeah,
they're there.
yeah. All
So
right, man. Well,
there we go.
I'm excited about doing that tomorrow. Then it'll
Oh
be
yeah,
nice to finish the week out with that. But next we
a high
have
note.
yeah, we have to talk about this. I know we both have our own views on it. So, and that is The Witcher 4 Unreal Engine 5 tech demo / not gameplay.
That is one thing that we definitely want to make clear to anybody that watches this, is that it was not gameplay. Everybody thinks that it was gameplay, and rightfully so, because it was,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it was kind of misleading the way that they punted it up.
Plus, it
But
eventually could be gameplay.
yeah, where they're like, it's a tech demo of Unreal Engine 5 based in the world of The Witcher. So basically what they've done is they built a world around the Witcher universe. They've done that within Unreal Engine 5, but it's not the game. It
Right.
is a world strictly created for the purpose of this demo. There's no, as you'll see, there's no on-screen HUD, there's nothing like that, and there's also no things run in the background. There's no missions that have to be running at the same time. There's nothing else that's demanding processing power or anything along those lines. So even if the game ultimately turns out to look as good as this does, which it certainly could, it's not going to have the exact same style or anything like that, because again, this is just not gameplay. Not to say
No,
that gameplay won't look this good, but
no.
this is not it. This is not
And
gameplay.
I got to tell you, man, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but to me, this looks like a copy and paste of Skellige. And I'm just going to say it out loud. I get it. The foliage looks great. All this new tech that they came out with, I guess that they coined, that makes the zero sense, like nanite foliage. Um, and some of the tech terms they basically coined on this tech demo, I was like, what? So we got the nanite foliage where each leaf and pine needle has its own 3D world it lives in, that they made with voxels. And then they talked
And it
about
has a
there was going to
job that it goes to and a family of a wife and kids at home. And yeah.
yeah, and then the 300, whatever they called the crowd mechanic that they've got going on, where they had 300 people in that little town of Kovir, which I am glad they're finally going to Kovir in a Witcher game. But um, to me, it looks like they took Skellige from The Witcher 3, laid it over on Unreal Engine 5, and named it Kovir. But that's just how it felt.
And that doesn't really bother me so much, given
No,
that it's obviously in the same world.
because I love
So
Skellige. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's like, if you go from Oklahoma into Texas, you're not going to be able to immediately look around and be like, oh, this is
oh,
clearly Oklahoma now.
I'm definitely in Oklahoma.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can see that by the drivers, but you're not going to be able
Yeah,
to know that from your surroundings. It's going to look largely the same. So that part doesn't bother me. However, I will say though that it looks phenomenal. And that said, so Unreal Engine 5 is what CD Projekt Red is going to be using moving forward. I was actually talking with one of our commenters before, and we were talking about Cyberpunk 2 and what it'll be on, and he was like, oh, it needs to be on Unreal Engine 5. And I was like, well, we'll see. Like the first 2077 was done in Red Engine 4. We'll see if they want to stay proprietary or go with the powerhouse. Turns out, I then looked it up a little bit later, and they've already declared that they're going to move forward with Unreal Engine 5 for all their games going forward. So Cyberpunk 2 will be in Unreal Engine 5, providing Unreal Engine 6 doesn't doesn't come out prior to launch. But so this is going to be what CD Projekt Red has utilized is going to be this game engine. And granted, Unreal Engine has always been cutting edge in any era that it's in. So I'm excited to see it. Now, as far as the Witcher 4 game goes, I have my own issues with Witcher 4. I
I
really
definitely
don't.
do.
I really don't like that it's not Geralt. I think it's really hard to hand off a moniker like that, to just hand it off to somebody else. I really wish that it wasn't called Witcher 4. I really wish that they had sort of soft rebooted at that point to kind
Yeah.
of make it its own thing. I don't like that it's The Witcher 4 and it's not Geralt, but we'll see what they do with it. But I do though recognize how insane this is, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. Who knows how far we are from it? I don't know if they've actually given a, a release window, but of course that can also be delayed, even if they have given us a release window for
Yeah.
4. Because we have, as we've mentioned, we have still yet to see gameplay. We've still yet to see gameplay. We've seen theoretical what gameplay might be able to accomplish in this, but it's not gameplay.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, as a reader of the books, and there's going to be somebody that takes this as, well, you're just closed-minded and not progressive. But um, you know, once they got past book two, it turned into the series saga. But she was not really the center of attention. Plus, we live in an age now, and I thought I was alone on this, but apparently there's a lot of people that are tired of their favorite franchises pigeonholing them into a character. I think everybody's ready to be able to create your own character and move forward in that world, whatever it is, or stay with what we got. Because I was fine being Geralt. My least favorite segments in the game we're playing is Ciri. It didn't hold the same tone. It wasn't that it's a
You
girl,
didn't even
or
have the
it
same
wasn't
abilities.
right. She didn't have the same abilities. And then I almost cringed in this tech demo when she walked into town and some guy's like, "Ooh, Witcheress, Witcheress, really?" Dude, it just felt watered down. Um, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, CD Project Red, they've done amazing things with the series, and I have no doubt that it'll be a great game.
Yeah,
I'm just not invested in it right now. I'm not invested in it right now because the
same.
character that we loved, and Siri was obviously a character in those first games, but the character that we grew so attached to and that we form our relationship to the game around is no longer there. This is the same reason that The Last of Us, um, spoilers, in the second game, you're not playing as Joel, and the second game is really poorly received. And it's like and same with the series. Now they made the series on HBO. First season, great. Second season, cratered after we got to that point where we no longer have Joel. And it's because Joel is how you experience that world through. He's the lens through which
Yeah,
you view this world. And once that lens is gone, you don't just pick up another looking glass. You feel lost in that world. That world's not
right.
the same anymore. It's
Joel
no
was
longer the world that you fell in love with because the glass that you looked at that world through isn't there anymore. So I think it's just a bad trend to just try to hot swap primary characters
so
in something that's so much about your character.
so like with Last of Us, Joel, he was the pain of the world. He carried the pain of the world on his face and everything he did. And when you look at The Witcher, he held the harsh brutality of that world on his shoulders, man. And like you said, through the lens, it was his lens. So that's how we are welcome to the world, and we see how it functions, and how, even though he's only there to help people, he gets shit on by everywhere he goes. And Siri is more of a coming of age story. And it's just, I feel like it's going to take, I'm not saying it's going to turn into a Disney troll through the trollops type of deal, but it's going to be a different type of story,
Yeah, and I'm not ready for
man.
and just to be clear, I would think the same thing if they gave it to some random dude. It's anybody that's not Geralt. It's
Yeah,
not the fact that it's going to a woman or anything like that. I don't give a shit about that. It's the fact that it's going to somebody that you don't have the same attachment to,
right.
and that it changes. It doesn't just change that game. It changes the entire relationship that you have with the world that's around it. And there's some that don't need this. I was having a conversation with a different commenter regarding Cyberpunk, and I don't believe that Cyberpunk is that same need. I think Cyberpunk is one that every time they do a game, I think you can have a new character. I think that's a great
Absolutely.
opportunity to have a new character with a different perspective on the world, allow you to live in a different area and interact with different people that you wouldn't otherwise just because of whatever is unique about this new character. So I think Cyberpunk is one that lends itself to having a different protagonist every time. Another thing like this is Assassin's Creed, where you every once in a while they would do some where it was like Altair or somebody like that, where you'd have multiples going, or Ezio, where you play as one person for a few, but it feels okay and natural to see the world through somebody else's eyes, especially as they go to different worlds. But something like Mass Effect was an example I used with a commenter. That Mass Effect trilogy, it would not have been the same if you were Commander Shepard in the first one, and then somebody else in the second one,
Oh,
and then
right.
somebody else
Yeah.
in the third one. Like you had to have Commander Shepard there as the thing
The
that
glue.
was steady through all of it. Yeah. It, whether you created a dude or a chick or
Right.
a bastard or a good guy, whatever it was that you wanted, it was very important. That story was very focused on Shepard. It was an amazing, rich, deep world, but it was Shepard's story. And
Yeah.
that's
And
how I feel about The Witcher, is that it's an
this
incredibly deep, rich world, but it's Geralt's story.
the sucking chest wound of a whole void in Mass Effect Andromeda is no Shepard. I
And
mean,
and it was sort of two cardinal sins at once. It was
yeah,
no Commander Shepard, which, you know what? I think we're all willing to give it a shot. We're all willing, like, okay, that was one trilogy. Maybe we'll have a new trilogy. But then
yeah,
the second cardinal sin that it committed was an empty, void world. So the
yeah,
two things about Mass Effect are this massive, living universe with
populated,
such
yeah,
deep lore, and Commander Shepard as the continuity that runs through it all. And then Andromeda happens, and it has neither of those things.
none,
It's a world that's completely devoid of life or recognizable anything, and you don't even know the lore because you're in a completely different area. It's like starting from scratch in an empty hallway with somebody you don't know, and it was just awful.
yeah, agreed.
So
But
yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure that CD Projekt Red will make a great Witcher game, and I'm sure that at some point I will get around to playing it and I will enjoy it. I have no doubt. I just don't like that it's trying to compel or trying to show itself as a continuation of Geralt's story, because it's not. I just wish that it was its own thing. I wish they start. It could be placed in the same world. I just don't like that it's called Witcher 4. I just wish that it was its own identity.
yeah, and you're right. And I will say this too, for all you people that can't wait on Witcher 4. I will say this: Witcher 3 announced this week that they are going to be doing a content update that's going to bring mods to console. Um,
That's gonna get crazy.
and that's going to be nuts. So for all you people that have been wanting to play mods on console, and I don't know what it's going to look like beyond that, we're going to have mods. Don't know if we're going to get the Netflix content on console. I've got to play it on PC, and it is cool seeing Yennefer from the show and Siri from the show and Henry
And
Cavill
Henry
on there.
Cavill,
Yeah.
the only
Um,
Geralt, the only live
yes,
action Geralt, as far as I'm concerned.
but yeah, I hope we get all of it. I'm sure there'll be some type of limit on what you're allowed to install, but because it's PlayStation and they always do that. But still, it's another exciting thing to be excited about in the Witcher franchise. So I'm looking forward to that as well for people that haven't got to try out mods on console. So
Yeah, I'm looking
I'll,
forward to it, especially because I'm not a PC gamer, not yet. Perhaps if we get enough subscribers, we can work our way up to it. I can get
if we
that
just get enough,
that crazy PC build. But right now, I console game, and usually whenever it's mod support, which the Bethesda games were some of the first that we had access to be able to do that on, and we got to do that on like Fallout and that kind of thing. And then we got them on Baldur's Gate 3, which was
right?
awesome. And but they're usually obviously far more limited because you can't get them from like Nexus mods or anything like that. It's still
Right.
mods, even though they're made by normal players. They still kind of have to go through the funnel of the developer in order to make it to the console version. So it's still going to be a much reduced list of available modifications, but anything is better than nothing, and I'm looking forward to it, especially given um, CD Projekt Red's dedication to the game. I'm sure that what they let through will be interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. So I'm very curious to see how Witcher 3 plays with mods and what kind of mods we actually get. That which, like I said, it will be greatly reduced from the mods available to the PC players, but I am curious to know which ones do make its way to console.
Yeah, and I'll probably have to start a fresh save because a lot of mods require fresh saves. So that'll be interesting if I have to start over. But here we are. Um, oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, like, also I do have one little piece of gaming news as well. Once we move beyond this, that I did think of, that I'd written down, and I don't have my notepad here.
Well, that's cool because I was actually just going to say some. We go over some quick hits from state of play of little titles or little things that, and I wanted to bring up one that YouTube YouTube content creator Jobo, who also happens to be my son. Um, he is super excited about Neo 3. I played like pieces of the first one. They like stealth dropped a demo for PlayStation. He downloaded it yesterday. So he's playing Neo 3 demo now and loves it, says it looks great. He's into all those sadistically hard Souls likes and whatnot. So
My son is the same.
yeah. So he's playing
And speaking of that, that's another, again, conversation with it.
that.
Again, we love to have conversations with you guys in the comments. So always feel free to leave a comment on any video that you see. Let us know what your opinions are. We don't have to agree. We can have a conversation. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as we're not throwing stones at anybody. I'm not going to argue with you, but I do like having conversations regarding different perspectives. But that was one thing that actually got brought up as something. I was talking with a commenter, and I think they had brought up. I think this was the same commenter that had brought up like about how DLC used to be free before they found out we'd pay for horse armor. That a lot of the DLC used to be free and this kind of thing. And I brought up another thing that we don't really get much, which is demos. That used to be the expectation was if you had a game coming out, you were obligated essentially to have a demo. And that would come out whether
Right.
it be a disc in a magazine, like we've talked about before, like EGM or
EGM.
something like that.
PC
But you had to have a
Accelerator.
demo, and like so many games now, like every once in a while you'll get a game that has a demo, but it's exceedingly rare these days. These days, like before, the whole thing with the demo was at least you got a little bit of hands-on gameplay and you could better make the judgment on whether or not this was for you, because you don't have to worry about somebody's opinion. You can still, obviously the demo could vary wildly from the finished game, but it was a lot more representative of the game than just watching a 2-minute trailer or something like that. Whereas now, the best that you can really do to get a feel for a game usually is to have a few content creators that you like. I have a suggestion for one of them that you go to get opinions on games and maybe see what they think. If your ideas are aligned, like, okay, they like it, I'll probably like it. But so we don't get demos a lot. So I'm glad that they got a demo out for that, because demos are a lost luxury of gaming.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, being an old gamer, sometimes the demo decides whether I get the game or not. Because back in the day, and you know as well as I do, a lot of times the demo is what sold the games. And if you were one of the weird games back then that didn't have a demo, it was like you had a tough launch.
Yeah, that was one of the things, like that's
Yeah.
back in the day, not having a demo was the equivalent of not sending out a review copy today, or having a
Right.
review embargo that breaks at time of release. Like now, that was the same thing. Like, so if you hear nowadays that, hey, this game either didn't send out review copies at all, or they did, but the review embargo is up midnight day of release, so that whoever, or maybe even later, maybe 9 a.m. day of release, so whomever received those advanced copies can't actually tell you their thoughts until the game is already released. That level of like, ooh, that's probably a bad sign. That was how it used to look whenever you didn't release a demo of the game. And I understand that the demos had downsides for the developers because they had to spend a lot of time on this one thing that didn't actually add anything to the game, and a lot of
Plus,
times
they
they
had
would
to, yeah,
create levels that didn't even exist in the game because they didn't want to give anything from the game away. So
yeah,
they
they
would,
had to be curated.
yeah, they would heavily curate these things,
Yeah,
and it would take time away. It's the same complaint that you'll hear people talk about whenever they have to do like a live, or like a either a live demonstration or a playable uh, game on the floor of some game show, because those are demos. They're
yeah,
not the full game, and they'll talk about the same thing about how they have to redirect resources to focus on this to have like a really polished floor demo. But they would have, that was the same problem that they would have there. So I understand that there are issues with
yeah.
creating the demo depending on how you're scheduling your time. But yeah, they were valuable. They were incredibly valuable, and I miss them.
I remember Todd Howard, and this has been years and years and years and years ago, talking about how he had to partition a part of his developers just to produce the trailer and tech demo for an E3, because back then E3 was a huge deal. And much like demo disc, we were crazy about watching E3 footage back then. So, and then we're talking about early days of YouTube. So, um, yeah, I do miss the lost art of the demo.
E3, that's another one that's gone. Now we no longer have E3. We have Key 3 with Jeff Keighley. So
Talk about Jeff Keighley's Key 3, man. I know you got something on that.
no, there were some. I've seen some things that were going to be coming out, and heard some speculation about what's going to be coming out. But no, I don't want to talk about too much of that. I want people to be surprised on the Summer Games Fest and the Xbox thing. We'll see. Hopefully, nothing that nothing disappoints. I hope it's fun. The state of play that we just saw, while it had some good things in there, I will say there were some parts that kind of dragged, where I'm like, oh, okay, not anything too crazy. So I'm hoping that we get some really good things with the Summer Games Fest and the Xbox Showcase. I hope there's some really newsworthy things that come out of those. I'm looking forward to it. One thing I can virtually guarantee, though, given that Summer Games Fest is Jeff Keighley, I would bet everything I have that we are going to see some more Death Stranding
and Metal Gear, even though it's not even his anymore. But
so yeah, I'm sure we'll see something from Hideo Kojima, and he'll talk crazy nonsense about some other wild ideas that he's got. I don't know if you've seen some of the other stuff that he's already talking about. He's thinking about his next game that he wants to do, and he's already throwing some stuff around in the media about this idea that he's had for a long time about a game with a protagonist that forgets things if you take too long to play. So if you don't play at a consistent pace, that you begin to lose things that you've learned. So if you've gotten abilities that you've unlocked, you can forget that you've unlocked them and no longer have those abilities, and you'll have to earn them back.
So it's like Memento in a
Yeah,
way?
kind of like Memento. And
Sounds like he got high and watched Memento.
so I'm like, but which it does sound like an interesting concept. It sounds like it'd certainly be frustrating, but it sounds like an interesting concept. But that's one where also, like, I can't imagine the logistics of making that work, because basically, whenever you have a game that's structured around your evolution as a character and your progression through skill trees and that kind of thing, you have levels further in the game that have things that you can only beat that level because of things that you've unlocked on the way there. And if you played that level before you had those things, you wouldn't be able to. But basically, every level in the game would have to be designed to still be doable without any of the things that you had unlocked on the way there, because it's always possible that someone could have not played it for a while and their character forgets and they're still on that level. I don't know. That sounds like a balancing nightmare, but Hideo Kojima is just the guy to lose some sleep over it and come out with something crazy.
That's true. Well,
So,
did you have anything else from State of Play?
State of Play, no, but I did want to just throw out one thing, and this was so ubiquitous. I'll say that ironically enough, since we're talking about Ubisoft, ubiquitous software. So I thought it was so common knowledge that I thought it was official. I thought it was 100% confirmed. That's how common knowledge this is. And that is the remake of Black Flag. Has not actually been officially confirmed by Ubisoft, one of the worst kept secrets in the gaming industry. And it got outed by a statue maker. So they were doing a live stream where they were doing this series for Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed in particular, and they were showing these different statues that they were making that you could buy throughout the series, these different heroes that we've had. And somebody put in the chat that, because they were doing this on a live stream, like, where's Edward Kenway? And they're like, well, Edward Kenway's they're basically like, well, he's got the game coming up. So, maybe we'll line that up more with that. And then that became this big thing, because I'm sure he assumed that it was already official. But that's how, and I saw that this had made headlines, and I was like, oh, is that not officially confirmed? Like, that's how bad of a secret it's been. I legitimately thought that had already been officially confirmed. It has not been. It's just been a horrifically kept secret.
About it and Ron talked about it at 903 before.
Oh, we did. We did. Show. I mean, it's been an open secret for a long time.
Yeah.
but they've just apparently just never officially confirmed it. So there you go. If you didn't already know, it's coming. And if you didn't trust us or any of the other sources, well, there you go. Somebody that's making the official statues for the game. If it's confirmed that it's on the way. Don't have a release date, but I assume, since we haven't heard anything yet about it, I assume this is going to be one of those things that they're going to do some show presentation. It's, because Ubisoft will do their own thing, and it'll be one of those things where it's like, and available. They're going to do the whole thing. It's going to be this one more thing. It's going to be the Black Flag remake, and then it's going to end with available now, or available this Friday, or something like that. I think it's going to stealth drop.
I'm just going to tell you, take my money.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've said it countless times now.
I still go back and play like on a Sunday when I'm super bored. I'll go hunt down ships, man, and take prizes.
That is still the first Assassin's Creed that I ever felt compelled to 100%. Like, there are a lot of them, where obviously I'd complete the game, but I didn't care about collecting every piece of whatever. I didn't collect every page of this. I didn't collect every little treasure. That was the first one where I wanted to collect everything. Single thing. I wanted to do all the whatever they called those things with the ship battles, where you'd have the legendary battle at the four corners of the map. There was the legendary confrontation. I did everything. I love that game. I cannot wait for the remake. Yes, they will be having my money, please.
Nobody made, and granted, I've only played the beta of Skull and Bones, and I still find it hard to believe that they do it, but nobody made ship combat as visceral as Black Flag. You could almost hear the wood snapping in your ear. I mean, you know what I mean? It was crazy.
So okay, I'll do this. I'll do this again. Every time Skull and Bone gets brought up, it's like I get triggered.
Dude, I didn't mean to open.
And it's still a. You were mentioning a sucking chest wound earlier. That's what this is. It is not healed. It is still a very sore spot. And so the whole thing, it blows the biggest fumble in gaming, like the easiest dub in gaming history that they managed to fumble. I remember receiving this questionnaire. So Black Flag was this monster hit. But not only was it, this might seem crazy for people now, but Black Flag was not expected to be it was an Assassin's Creed game. They expected to be a hit, no doubt. Like, Assassin's Creed was a huge deal. They did not realize the level of hit that it was going to be, the cultural significance that it was going to have, especially since they were introducing so many systems for the first time, like ship combat. That was the first outing of ship combat, and they nailed it. So after this massive,
they more than nailed it. I mean,
like Jay said, you essentially could hear the logs on your ship shattering. It was so, like you said, visceral and engrossing. But they sent out a questionnaire after the massive success of this, and they said, "Hey," it basically asked, "Would you be interested in a game like Black Flag, but that was just pirates and not connected to the greater Assassin's Creed universe?" Everybody said, "Hell yes, please do. Let me just be a pirate. That we would love that. Yeah, give us more of this." And that, which would also mean, hey, if this was a series where it was just a pirate series, we could have new Black Flags every few years. It would be great. Yes. Everybody was so stoked. And this was the biggest example of learning the wrong lesson. So they had all of us emphatically saying, yes, do this. And they took from that, oh, they like the ships. And yes, we did like the ships, but it was everything around it. So they made Skull and Bones, which has been in development for a crazy long time, and for reasons I'm not going to get into here.
Went through like 4 different dev teams.
Yeah, they were legally obligated to release the game. That's if you wonder why it was never canceled. They were legally obligated to release the game. Maybe we'll make a deep dive about that, because it's a wild story. But basically, so they took that and they said, oh, they like the ships. And so that's how we got Skull and Bones, was they made a game entirely about ship combat. And it was like, oh, one person versus another. We're like, this is not what we wanted. We just wanted exactly what you just gave us. Just no Animus. Just no Assassin's Guild. Just let us be pirates. Let us do pirate things. We wanted to be able to get off the ship and enjoy the cities on port and walk around. And we wanted to interact with it the way that we interacted with the world in an Assassin's Creed game and just not have to be assassins. We
Right.
could just be bastard black pirates, like we just wanted to be these characters, these scallywags,
Yeah.
and we told them, they asked us and we told them this is exactly what we want, and they gave us Skull and Bones, and I hate it.
Yeah. I just wanted to walk around Nassau in my tricorn as One-Eyed Willie and get on my boat and sail off into, wherever and take
Drink
people out.
ale.
Yeah, man. Play Five Finger Fillet, whatever you want to do, but we just didn't get to do it. I know we've went off on a crazy tangent here, but it also segues into what I wanted to talk about, the
Well, good.
Star Wars thing tonight. But if you're ready to hit that, so
Go for it.
So yeah, talking about giving people what they want. One franchise, and I hate it because I've been a fan club member since I was 7. Yes, I'm old. Is Star Wars wanted to just give us the games we want, man. You got people climbing fences now, right? Wanting Battlefront 3. It's like a full blown internet movement. And then they gave us Outlaws, which they had promised before Outlaws came out that, hey, you're going to create your own character and be in the Star Wars universe. And then nope, we get to be a post-pubescent teen angst female smuggler that's getting trying to get as much street cred as a Han Solo or Lando Calrissian. Please. They did give us Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, which are great. But again, we are pigeonholed into Cal Kestis. And everybody's wanted to be their own character in an open world, open galaxy Star Wars game.
They canceled Amy Hennig's game.
They canceled Amy Hennig's game. They canceled what's her name's game for the Star Wars, just the fighter game that was supposed to take place after Squadrons, which Squadrons is a good game if you like fighter pilot games. But somebody over the past year has been working on a mod pack for Starfield. And I think we're a year into this thing. This mod pack contains 315 mods. You have to have the Steam version of the game. You can't have the Xbox Game Pass version, which sucks because that's the one I have. And it is a open world, create your own character, fully dumped every asset that is Starfield except the ones you absolutely have to have. Redid the whole world, all the iconography in the places, like the logos, everything, all the characters, everything's redone. I am going to put up some gameplay tonight. Of course, this mod is a free mod because they can't charge for it; they'll get nailed for it. And this footage tonight is going to be courtesy of YouTube creators Deity Venji and Pac-Man. So I just want to show some of this. And I've kind of pieced together and curated some scenes from the game, from those 2 videos. But we already just saw.
So this is Starfield. This is in Starfield.
Yes. So look at this,
dude.
There's the Tatooine Dowager Queen ship, Crooked. You're playing as Mando in Tatooine. They also redid all the missions, so you're not playing Starfield missions. They redid all the dialogue. It's got all the music. Pretty much every race in Star Wars is open to use as a created character.
They even had the languages and the neon signs, like the crazy Star Wars languages.
Yeah. There's some Weequay right there. There's Bausch, and Bausch is using her bowcaster that she stole from Chewie.
I had that figure when I was a kid.
We got Mandalorians galore, and most of the footage you find on YouTube, almost everybody's playing as a Mandalorian. I didn't get any footage of it, but there are Jedis. Here's some. Wait till this
Millennium Falcon.
So Millennium Falcon heading into Tatooine. Obviously, using the ship creator did that. There's the land speeder heading across the Dune Sea. I mean, dude, just looking at this there's the twin suns, man. They did everything. There is turbo on this land speeder, although I don't think I put that footage in. I think I spliced it in. Here they are visiting. They've got a mission like
Jawas.
Mission where Mandalorian has to speak to some Jawas about I guess something they're looking for that they want him to get. But dude, I don't know what you think of this, but like it's
This is
absolutely
insane.
there's a full story mode walkthrough you can pull up on YouTube. But there's some and look at this inventory stuff, man. It's crazy.
Okay,
And
that
it
face is the
looks
first thing I've seen that's a little bit like wonky.
yeah,
Everything else, man, is like unreal.
but it's you have to if you have Starfield, you have to turn automatic updates off so that when they update this, you can then update Starfield and update this. So it's running through Wabajack and Nexus Mods, so Wabajack will do all the work for you once you download it. But dude, look at this, man. Look at the textures on that jetpack on FET.
Well, even just the lighting and the colors look dead on.
There's a Duros. There's nighttime on Mos Eisley.
The hangars,
The Falcon taking off from Docking Bay 94.
dude. Yeah, that looks nice.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, man. And
Especially for somebody like me who I was really excited for Starfield, super excited, and then it came out and I was just kind of like, "Oh, this is not what I was hoping it was going to be." And
No.
I barely made it into it. I just it didn't hook me. Like the story was not compelling. I just was not. I was thinking this was going to be Skyrim in space, and it was not. It did not grab me, and that would grab me.
Yeah, and this mod is Star Wars through and through. There's a totally different start. It is a Star Wars start. But this is another game, and we talked about this on one of our other episodes where the modding community saved this game. And yeah, this mod is like if you go look at the install guide, what the things you have to jump through to get it on there is crazy. But once you get the pre stuff done, then Wabajack and Nexus Mods handles the rest. But it's one of those things where it has to be a new save, and you can't have automatic updates on, and you can't have any other mods on. You have to go delete any of the extemporaneous folders that Starfield creates on your system. Obviously, it's PC only at this point, so that kind of sucks too. But the idea that you can take a game that's not Star Wars and a small group of developers and come up with something like that and all the work that they've done is crazy. So yeah, definitely go find the video that's actually a walkthrough of the story mode so you can kind of see it from the beginning.
How long is the story mode supposed to be?
Well, they keep adding on to it. Right now, there's there's a gigantic Coruscant story. Dude, Coruscant looks gorgeous on there. And you have to go to Tatooine, and there's a big piece of it. And they still have some asset, like that house that you went to at the very beginning of Starfield. That's like your headquarters.
The mansion,
still.
yeah.
But when you walk in, it's none of the same people. It's like there's like a Luke Skywalker clone in there with the white farm boy suit on, and I mean, it looks crazy. I mean, it's absolutely nuts.
This is like there was another thing where the mod community went crazy and did much like this, where they, except it was Fallout London. So they took Fallout.
I've played that, yeah.
Yeah, and they made Fallout London, which is its own story. It's voice acted. It's voice acted by legit voice actors and even some screen actors. Like they got legit people involved in this thing, where they just this just creation of passion, where they just put all this into it, knowing that they couldn't get paid for it because of the situations being what they are, and still donating their time and their efforts and creating something crazy like this to let people enjoy. I don't know. I'm always just wowed by the level of work that some people can put into that.
What I thought was cool about Fallout London is that even Bethesda got excited about it and sent like 2 developers to go hang out with those guys so they could just pick their brains for information. So I thought that was cool that instead of shutting them down, because some developers do that, they were like, "Dude, this is great. The work you've done with our assets is great."
I do like whenever something like that happens. There was another instance where, if you'll recall, on The Mandalorian, where Mandalorian season 1 ends with the return of Luke Skywalker, on the ship. And that's obviously a huge scene. But whenever you watch the show, the deep
Uncanny
fake on the
Valley?
on the face and the lips, it was just off. And there was a fan that made a version. So he did that scene where Luke shows his face, and he fixed it so that it was the lips matched better and it looked more lifelike.
Yeah.
And he fixed it. And so that version got crazy numbers of views because it looks so much better than what we actually got on Disney Plus. And in a move, especially in this era of Disney Star Wars, that shocked me, but it's the smartest move they could make.
No way.
That dude now cashes a Disney paycheck. So they gave that guy a job. Instead of telling him take it down, they gave him a job.
That's awesome, man. I mean, you never hear that stuff. That's like, I hope this guy gets a job, whoever this guy is. But and you go to that website that for Star Wars Genesis, and they have put, I don't know how many people are on it, but they have put some serious. I've been looking at it all week. They've put some serious work into it, and it shows, man. It's not like it's a janky copy and paste the skin over top of an existing skin to give you that. It looks good. The weapons fire sounds right. The lightsabers sound right. The music is
Well,
on point.
it even looks better as Star Wars than Starfield looks better as Starfield. Like
Right.
the models
that.
look more detailed here in their modded version than you using an official model in Starfield.
Yeah, I don't know what planet that is. That looked awesome right there, but dude, that right there is.
See
come
I
on.
mean that is perfect. The lighting looks amazing. You can see that it's got the the dual there in the sky, and the colors, everything is just perfect on this. This looks like honestly, this, especially because Amy Hennig's Star Wars game was going to be focused on being an outlaw, and so you were going to be on in the Mos Eisley Cantina, and you're going to be on Tatooine and stuff like that. That looked kind of like the little blip, the one section that we ever got to see of her game. That scene of him walking through the streets of Tatooine, that or Mos Eisley, that looked like a lot like her game did.
Yeah. Anyway, man, I'm looking forward to trying to get this together. I need it to go on sale on Steam. Whoops, what am I doing there? But yeah, I'm looking forward to trying it out and seeing what it looks like.
I mean, yeah, I'm very curious to see. You'll have to let me know how it is, and I'm also very curious now, like how long the story is, how good it is. But that's awesome. You'll have to let me know how it goes once you get it. Maybe you
Yeah, and
can
I'm gonna,
maybe you can
even if I
broadcast it on Twitch.
even if I don't get it, it's one of those things where I'm still going to follow the progress of this mod as it grows. And they've done something like it's already up to like 250,000 voice lines they've had to edit.
Jeez.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's something god awful, but yeah, man, that's all I had on it. But I felt like it went with tonight's theme because these are things we want to play and we're excited about, whether we're actually getting to or not. And so I'm looking forward to getting to try it out, hopefully.
Excellent. Yeah, it looks awesome. Did you have anything else on your list?
I did not, but I know you do. So
Yes.
I'm all ears.
Wanted to get to some of our viewer comments. So as you guys
Let's do
know,
it.
we always enjoy having conversations with you in the comments, but there's only so much that we can say at a given time, and sometimes it's just easier to do this. So we like to pick some comments, and we can cover them and go into more depth here and have a broader conversation around them. So this is what we're going to do here. So yeah, first of all, thank you so much for all the comments. Again, this week has been a wild one. The last week, 2 weeks, but especially this last week, I've been kind of run ragged, short on time, but you guys kept commenting, and I was able to have conversations with you guys in those comments. So it was good to still reach out to you guys, even though the output was a little bit less than what we had in some previous weeks. So thank you for all the comments. Keep them coming. Again, every time. Always feel free to comment and share your opinions. We love to discuss it. We don't need to agree with each other. We just need to talk about it. So let me start off with here. So this is a comment, and this is going to be from a few different videos. So this comment is going to be from our video about Borderlands 4 and whether or not it will be an elevated price. We've now done this on a couple of videos because of the never-ending saga of Randy Pitchford's apology.
Oh,
But
nice.
in this one, regarding whether it will be more expensive, will it be $80 or something like that?
Yeah.
We have here, I'm guessing it was Chintzy Magnet commented saying, "I wasn't paying $70 for it. I'll buy it for sub 20. I'm in no hurry. That's if it's good. Maybe I'll get it for free," and a little pirate flag. So I would say this is one where I know Jay and I are both supporters. I'm not going to support the pirating aspect of it, but I will say though, there's no shame in waiting for a game to come down in price.
No, we were watching that video on the way back to my house yesterday. Me and my son, I went to pick him up from his mom's, and this is his. And by the way, that video is him and his friend's favorite one of ours so far.
Nice.
Big Borderlands fans themselves. But I was talking about. I was like, son, I think I've reached a point where even something I'm excited about, I don't need to have it right off. And I think with Borderlands, and it kind of depends on you and Rob and the other people in my life that I typically game with, but I can wait for this one to go on sale, honestly, and still be just as excited as people are that are gonna stand in line for it. But
Especially one like this where it's not so much about, like, yeah, you can do online, but it's like online co-op or something like that.
yeah,
It's not one of these where like, you're not getting a lesser experience if you experience it later. It's
yeah,
not one of those things that's really contingent on being in there when the most people are there, like
like
right at
Call of
launch.
Duty.
Yeah, because obviously the main attraction for a Borderlands 4 is the single player mode. And even if you do multiplayer, it's probably going to be a co-op run through the mission, through the story mode. So yeah, especially something like that where your level of enjoyment, you're not getting a lesser or diminished product if you come in later. Yeah, wait for it to go on sale, wait for it to come down in
Yeah,
price. And especially then you can get, not only do you get the benefit of having a cheaper price, a more affordable price, you also get the benefit of having a better idea of how well you will like it, how aligned it is with you. You get to hear the opinions of content creators, friends, people that you
right,
trust. You might have even gotten to get your hands on it, going to a buddy's house and hanging out there, doing some couch co-op, something like that. And you also get the benefit of any of the post-launch bugs or something like that. Those are going to be patched out, taken up. So
right.
you're actually going to be getting a better version than people got at launch, because you will go into that with all these patches. So no shame, absolutely in waiting for a sale. So
Also,
always support
if
that.
it is $80, the first time it goes on sale, it'll be the price of a regular standard game.
Yeah, might need to let it run through a few sales cycles
Yeah.
to get down to something like that. Then on the same video, so again about the Borderlands being $80, this was from Mino2294, and I actually had quite a long back and forth with Mino. It was a fun conversation, but he mentioned something that he had heard us talk about in the show, and he said, "Gaming is the cheapest form of entertainment by far. The game could be $100. It would still be the cheapest form of entertainment. I spend over 200 hours on Borderlands 3. Let's say I at least spend 50 hours on Borderlands 4 at $80. That's $1.60 per hour for entertainment. Nowhere on this planet can you find that nowadays, not even at the cheap movie theater. I'm not defending the price hike, but I wish everybody would just get a real perspective." And so this was in reference to something that I was talking about on that video, where I talked about an objective value statement that people have attempted to attach to games sometimes and trying to make part of their review. And that is, you take the amount that you spend on the game and then you divide it by the number of hours that you spend on that game. And so this is what he was doing there, where he's kind of like using that perspective. And it is true. So this is true that if it is a game that you enjoy, the value proposition is still one of the greatest value propositions that you can find out there, because yeah, the entertainment per hour is very far below what it is to go see the movies, where you're paying 20-30 bucks for a
Well,
ticket.
and that's assuming you don't go out to eat before or after your movie and on your way home, plus fuel.
Yeah, and
So
the only issue there, and this is what we had a conversation about, where it's like I 100% agree with that perspective. So if you like it, yeah, it's gonna be great. Kind of the same thing that we talked about with GTA, where you spend thousands of hours in GTA or something, or Red Dead
yeah,
Redemption 2 or something like that. I mean, this is pennies on the hour that you're paying. So is it worth it? Like we said, whenever we looked at viewer comments, and like for GTA, when somebody was saying like it's worth it, I'm like, yeah, I can see that where that would be worth it. So there's two things at play here, though. One of those is as long as you actually do enjoy it. So if you buy it, you don't like it, then that's a problem. Now it's money that you've spent towards something, and you're not going to get you're not going to be divided by a whole lot of hours because you decided that it's not for you and you're not going to play it. But the other thing, the big problem that a lot of people will come to here is the lump sum all up front. And even if it is a great value, even like you said, even if it was $100 or
yeah,
something like that, and you put this many hours into it, and you divide that $100 by however many hours, and yeah, really cheap per hour, but having to pay that
we're
up
not paying.
front, that's
Yeah,
the part that sucks. And the example that I put here, in which I not to compare Netflix to a game, where Netflix is obviously always cranking out new content, things like that. But
right.
just as far as a value proposition goes, I pay for Netflix per month. And I know that some people pay a lump sum up front, but if Netflix said, "Hey, you have to pay for 1 year up front," I'm just not gonna have Netflix.
Bye.
Yeah, like I'm just gonna take the lower monthly payment and do that. But it's like as soon as you have to pay for it up front, you don't get the option
Yeah.
to do that. Like, hey, if they gave it to you and you could pay a buck 50 for each hour that you played, hey, that maybe people would do that. But it's the lump sum up front that is the big kicker on that.
Yeah, and I just want to say to the spreadsheet analytics master, Mino, thank you, because that is a good perspective, and I think you're right. I think people lose perspective on everything, especially once you hear a price. And if it's a price you don't like, then you're kind of, it's like we say in the race world when people get mad that the red mist sets in, and it's like I can't see anything else. And so yeah, that was a very interesting viewpoint.
Yeah, and then so there's some others here that I wanted to go into, and one I think you might even find familiar. So we will start off with the first one. So I already made a little bit of mention to this, and I'm gonna have to edit some of this comment here, but it was Sydney Ecstasy 9063. Remember when they gave you the DLC for free? I won't be buying anything extra. Just give me the game and F off with your DLC, especially since most of them aren't incredible. And that is valid. That is valid. So I completely understand that. So this is what we are talking about before, where DLC, yeah, used to be free a lot of the times, up until, again, Horse Armor. Thank you, Bethesda. But I think that's, again, a totally valid stance where you say, you
Yeah,
know what,
dude,
I will buy the game. I just won't buy any DLC.
I don't disagree. Like one of the biggest things that pisses me off, and I can already tell it pisses this guy off, is that used to when you bought a season pass, I can't believe I'm saying used to, because season passes have become the norm. But used to when you bought a season pass, it was technically all their DLC forever. Now the season pass is literally a season pass. Once
Yeah.
fall turns into summer, we're
Yeah.
releasing a whole new 5 or 6 content packs, and you need a new season pass.
Yeah. I hate that. Or, yeah. Like
Oh,
you said
dude,
before.
don't forget to remind me. I have something to say about season passes and stuff.
Okay. But yeah, before, yeah, like you said, season pass meant you got everything. And season pass was more a colloquialism than anything else.
Yeah,
It was just a way to kind of put on there. But yeah, then they're like, well, that was season one. Here's our season two content. You're like, mother, come
yeah,
on now.
yeah.
And yeah, I hate that. I hate that. And it's one of those things where I 100% understand just being exhausted by the nickel and diming
Oh yeah.
of everyone through this whole thing. So yeah, that's a valid frustration. Do you want to go ahead and talk about the season pass here, or do you want to
Yeah,
talk about it later? Okay.
that's fine. And this is one of the things that pissed me. It was the last thing in State of Play, and it threw me through the roof. And I'm not even playing this game. But Rainbow Six. I played Rainbow Six on the PC when it first came out in '98. Back then, you had to actually like draw lines on a map and plan where all your operators went on a mission. And then moved down the road a few years, past all those, and we got it on console, and we had Rainbow Six Vegas and Vegas 2. Excellent, both excellent titles. Then there were a couple shitty ones, Lockdown and something else I don't even remember. And then Rainbow Six Siege comes out. And I get it. It's got a ridiculous following. And the people that love Rainbow Six Siege, I mean, they love it. It's like all they play. And it's gotten so hardcore that you can't really just break into that crowd now. You can forget it. You can get on there and have some fun with your buddies, but you're not going to be competitive. These guys are legit. I mean, almost real time operators at this point. And then State of Play announces that Rainbow Six is instituting a subscription fee.
Oh,
$10 a month.
dude,
is
I
that?
thought we were done with that.
How old is that game, by the way? How old is Rainbow Six Siege?
It's got to be getting. It's got to be around. Got to be coming up on 10 years, right? Got to be at least like 7, 8.
How old? I've already Googled it. It is 10 years old, and they are instituting a $10 a month for one game.
See, that
We-
is insane,
both
and
have Game
especially
Pass. We both have Game Pass, and I paid $20 for my Game Pass, but I have access to like 300 games.
yeah, the last game I can think about having a monthly fee was like WoW, which I never played. I never had like a gaming PC. So World of Warcraft. And that's one of the reasons that, I mean, it obviously still has its dedicated players,
Yeah.
but that kind of format just kind of went out. However, it has far more content than something like Rainbow Six Siege is strictly versus team versus team.
Yeah.
Like there's whereas World of Warcraft has story and this all this the expansive world that you're paying this monthly subscription to partake in. For something like Rainbow Six Siege, that's wild to me. I guess I'm almost afraid to ask. Does this $10 a month charge guarantee you access to everything in the game?
I do not know the answer. I'm guessing yes. I think this is a way to try to get people to come in this world so that they can be cannon fodder for all the pros. So the pros need like sparring teams, I guess, developmental squads.
Because if
But-
it's not, if you pay $10 a month and then they still want you to pay for
Yeah.
new operators or something like that, I would be livid.
So I play a space game called Stellaris. Maybe you've heard of it. It's a big 4D
I've heard of it.
space game. In fact, you can create your own like I've created all the Expanse factions, and I'm playing like an Expanse scenario. But every time they come out with a season, it comes out with one gigantic piece of episodic DLC that adds a whole new area and different types of mechanics, and then they come out with 2 or 3 species packs, and they're usually about $30 for the season pass, or you can pay $24 for the episode and $5 a piece for the species. But they instituted last year a $10 a month subscription fee if you want to get into the game. And if you pay that fee, you get everything. You have access to everything the game offers, which I can see where that would be enticing for some people, because to get caught up right now, it would literally, if it's not on sale, it would literally cost you $400 to get caught up if you bought everything.
I think that is minimum what you should do if you're charging people a
Yeah.
monthly fee. I think at minimum they should get all the
Everything.
DLC. Ideally,
think
you
they
should
should
give them a
get
little
stuff that
something on
other
top,
Yes.
you know. But at
Absolutely.
minimum, you should give them absolutely everything that the game has to offer.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go ahead and go to this one. So here's one where talking about Borderlands, and while talking about this, and then the follow-up video where we talked about Borderlands and Randy's apology and all that whole thing. I mentioned as part of setting up a joke, but it is true that Randy was a visionary and had redefined genres on multiple occasions across multiple systems. And we had a commenter, and this was Michael Wall 7810, and he says, I thought Gearbox was the studio that made Borderlands and then a bunch of other crap that overpromised and then completely bombed. Aliens, Colonial Marines, and Duke Nukem immediately come to mind. Did they make something that wasn't Borderlands, or complete crap when I wasn't paying attention. Real question, not sarcasm. Borderlands is fine, but at least for me, hasn't really been great since part 2.
I think I responded to that.
You
comment.
did. That's why I
Okay.
said this would sound familiar to you.
Yes. Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure I brought up Brothers in Arms.
You did?
And then I brought up Battleborn because you and I both talked about it, and you're actually the one that brought it up, but I remember it, and it unfortunately got killed by Overwatch. But Brothers in Arms, that could have been on my unsung hero games, except for the fact that it did very well on the PS2, and and
These were from the Battleborn release party.
Yeah.
That's where I acquired the badass glasses.
But Brothers in Arms, dude, was a four. It was you were basically an infantry fire team, and you could control all 4 shooters at the same time. And when somebody died, they died. So it was like one of those things where you felt that impact, and then you would get replacements, and it followed a true story. The first one did, the Road to Hill 30 for sure did, but it actually had some real incidents from that era during that time. So that was probably their first big hit. And then, of course, Borderlands is a big hit, and we said that. And Battleborn is a good one. I did not play Aliens Colonial Marines. I kind of wish I did because I love Aliens and Predator, but
Well, that was the one that was really, really broken, where it released and the AI was completely bugged. And this is another instance where modders saved that game, where they corrected a little bit of code and the game became functional and the AI worked, although still not a great game. So certainly not excusing the release of Colonial Marines in the state that it was in. That was certainly not good. And then Duke Nukem Forever, that's one where I don't think anybody really expected it to be good. That's one of those games, if you go back and you play those old Duke Nukem games, they weren't great. It was just a thing. Like, it was sort of, that was an era where they took the Doom format,
yeah,
the perspective and everything like that, and they just kind of put different things on top of it, and that was what Duke Nukem was. And then they just put a lot of raunchy jokes and things like that on top of it. So
and
Duke Nukem Forever, it was a Duke Nukem game. I don't think anybody expected it to be anything crazy, but at least it released. That's the whole thing. At least it actually got to the finish line. So not excusing those or saying that those were great milestones or anything like that. They certainly weren't. But like you had said, Brothers in Arms, that was absolutely revolutionary for what it was. And Borderlands, like he even mentions Borderlands. And Borderlands, it's easy to forget because now it's just so synonymous with everything, and there's so many copies of Borderlands. Borderlands was revolutionary at the time. It was the first one that really melded the shooter aspect along with this loot fest and made it all work. Also popularized cell shading. It was revolutionary for its time, and he even mentions that it hasn't really been great since part 2. And I would agree. That's what we had said many times.
yeah,
Part 1 and part 2 were the height. Everything after that, like the gameplay was fine, but the story, the humor, it just got out there, which is why we're hopeful that in 4, based off of what they've said and what we've seen, that they kind of reel it back into a Borderlands 1, Borderlands 2 vibe.
it's also
So,
important that you can't bury a company's good games when they release a couple of freaking you know shit shows. And so I also think about the fact that, and Gearbox never gets any credit for this, but they did the ports for Half-Life to PlayStation 2. And they also did most of the work on Counter-Strike, which is huge.
yeah, it's still
And
going.
then if you're a PC person and you're my age, or maybe Russ's age, and you like strategy games, they also did the remasters for 2 of the most beloved RTSs of all time on PC, which is Homeworld and Homeworld 2. And they did a phenomenal job. Both of them are great. They're absolutely great. So yeah, that's a remaster, but still, they're the ones that put it together and brought it into the modern era and gave it modern mechanics. So to me, they get credit for it.
Yeah, and
Um,
so I can certainly understand being sort of disillusioned and
yeah, absolutely.
disenfranchised with them over those games and then some of the lesser Borderlands releases. Totally understand being a bit jaded and kind of like, I'm not really looking forward to this. 100% understand that and get it. But like Jay said, can't discount the revolutionary things that they did do, that they did implement.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on that one, or do you want me to move on to the next?
You can go ahead. Keep going, man. I'm
All
good.
right. So here's one that I figured, well, this is just kind of fun. But Tommy 1977777, I don't know, there's a lot of sevens back to back.
Holy number.
Says, and again, this is in regards to Borderlands 4. Says, I
Okay.
bet they charge $100 and it sucks. And then we also had somebody respond below that said, and that was Norman 1907. And he said, I also believe this. When you take this perspective, then look back at Randy's answers, they hit different. So I just wanted to bring this up to say, I think that there is zero chance that this game is $100. Obviously, there'll be special editions, whatever, all that kind of stuff. But base game, there is no chance this thing
I agree.
gets near $100. $80, maybe, but as you and I both said, after this whole fiasco, I think that would be suicide on their part. I think we're looking at $70.
I absolutely think we're looking at $70.
But yeah, I think there is no world where they think they can get away with $100, because Borderlands 4 is just not that game. Like we've said before, GTA could do it. People wouldn't like it, but they'd buy it.
Oh yeah.
That wouldn't happen with Borderlands 4. People wouldn't like it, and they'd be like, nope, I'll just wait for it to go on sale. And I honestly, at $100, I'd probably wait for it to go on sale. I'd be like, you know what? I want it, but I don't want it that bad.
There's going to be people, dude, that buy, I'm telling you, there's going to be people that save up $1,000 and buy GTA and 10 or 15 Megalodon shark cards today, just so they can be ahead of everybody online. You know it'll happen.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that one in there so that we could reassure everybody again, like, it ain't getting that high. No worries. And like I said, Jay and I both, we've laid our opinions as to why. Yeah, we don't think it's going to be $80. Then we have Cades 93041 says, there is no such thing as a loyal fan base. One mistake and everyone attacks them. Period. People will still buy it at $80 and say they aren't. And saying they aren't is naive. Matter of fact, most people are going to buy an upgraded edition anyways. And I will say that I get where you're coming from, but I definitely disagree. That as far as loyal fan base, yeah, there might not be. Okay. His statement that there is no loyal fan base. Make a mistake, they'll jump on you. I think those are not mutually exclusive. I think a loyal fan base will jump on you, and they jump on you because they're a loyal fan base. If you betray that loyal fan base, they're going to let you know it.
Well, there's a lot of people out there that say, and I'm going to use another franchise as an example. There's a lot of people out there that say that the Star Wars fan base is the best and worst fan base all at the same time. And that is 1000% correct.
Yeah.
So I think anybody that's passionate about their franchise is going to get pissed off when that franchise pisses them off.
Yeah, or you do something that they think is counter to what you have established.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody was upset. Like once Borderlands 3 came out, everybody was just kind of like, oh, man, this is not what we wanted. So that'll thing. I think a loyal fan base. So case in point, like Jay said, Star Wars, a loyal fan base can still be a very vicious fan base. And they're vicious because of that loyalty. And they feel that you weren't loyal to them. That's the thing, is that loyalty with that fan base is a two-way street. They're loyal to you. They see you as not being loyal to them, and they're going to let you know about it. So I think those attacks are kind of what keep them honest on some of those things. If you make a mistake, that they're going to let you know. As far as people will still buy it at $80 and saying they aren't is naive. So one thing is that Jay and I did not say that people would not buy it at $80. Most of them would. We said most people would. However, if you think that there are not people who would pass because it was $80, that is naive.
Yeah.
As we've discussed before, anytime you raise the price, any degree,
On
you will
anything.
lose people.
Yeah.
It's an equation. It's part of marketing. So every time you get the email from Netflix that says, "Hey, guess what? Next month, your monthly statement it's going up $2 a month." Most of us would look at that and be like, "Oh, that sucks," but at least it's just $2.
You gotta
But
have it. Yeah.
there's going to be a non-zero number of people out there that's okay, that's it. Last time was my limit, and this is beyond it, and I'm not doing it again, and I'm
Yeah,
canceling.
and if one of the meetings prior to something like that happening is always somebody at the table going, how much buy-in on our existing subscriber base are we looking at? And there's going to be a percentage that's thrown down that's going to be the bar, right? And they're like, hey, okay, so we're about to raise Netflix $2, but we need to hold on to 92% of our existing fan base, while at the same time probably offering a special to bring in new people and offering it to them for half price for 6 months, and then it goes up to this new price.
And
Right.
they
And
have
the
to
same
make sure
thing
that the
happens.
amount that they're charging the people that are still paying full price are able to make up for that
Right.
discount that they're offering those people.
So that 8% loss in existing customer base is getting covered by new consumers, right? Or new people. So you're going to have, and that's another thing you're looking at when you're talking about Borderlands 4 or GTA 6, is we're going to have a fan base too of people that were under 18 when GTA 5 launched and never have played it, that might start with GTA 6 or Borderlands 4. Borderlands 4 might have been, you know, 9 or 8 years old when Borderlands 3 came out, and they don't care. They were playing Fortnite and Minecraft. And now they've gotten older and they want to, oh man, this looks cool. All my friends are getting it. So you've got that existing Gearbox Borderlands fan base, and then you've got all the new gamers that are coming in too. And I think that's where a lot of your pricing gets discussed at a boardroom table.
Yeah, for sure. And the last thing is also, he says, matter of fact, most people are going to buy an upgraded edition anyways,
Yeah.
and that is just not the way that it works. Uh, most of the copies that get sold of any game is going to be the base game. Now, there will be dedicated people. Myself, Jay, we're those dedicated people. If there's a game that's coming out and it has a special edition, I am likely going to get the special edition of that game. I will likely get the special edition of Borderlands 4. I'll likely get the special edition of GTA 6. What were you saying, Jay?
I was going to say, as long as it's not just an art book
Yes.
and the official soundtrack.
As we have discussed, like the digital art book and the soundtrack. Yeah, if that's all it is, no. But if you get some most bonus stuff, like I'm gonna get the enhanced edition. But that's not most people. That's dedicated fan base for sure. And like I said, I fall under that category for a lot of the games that I get and that I'm really excited for. But the most copies of any game is going to be the standard edition.
Oh, yeah.
So and so going back to that, there are, even though we think that Borderlands will launch at $70, there's people that would buy it at $70 that wouldn't buy it at $80. We think it's going to launch at $70, but there's people that aren't going to buy it at $70 that would have bought it if it was $60. And at every point, there are people that are going to be left behind, or at least will not buy it. Maybe they buy it later, but they just don't buy it at launch. They wait longer. They save up.
And I got to tell you too, and I want to talk to our younger crowd right now. If you think any of these these stipulations change as you get older, you're crazy. You're living in a dream world, because we just had the launch of F125, and Russ knows I'm a gigantic Formula One fan. And I literally got the iconic edition just so I could play 3 days early. Is that a 12-year-old thing? Absolutely. Yeah, sure it is. But Borderlands 4, I can wait till the day it comes out. I'm fine. I can wait 3 months down the road. GTA 6, I can wait to play. But there's still certain games out there that if they kept Metal Gear, I mean, if they offer me 3 days early access, that's happening.
Well, and everybody has that game. So
Yeah.
like you said, so you were that way for F1, but for Borderlands, you can wait. There are people that for Borderlands, they would do whatever to get that 3 days early access, and they might not play F1 or whatever. Every game has that base that there's going to be somebody that they'll pay to get that 3 days early access.
And the weird thing is, if I'm a game company, I'm going after both of those extremes. I don't care about the middle crowd, like I just talked about, that are like, yeah, I'll just buy it when it comes out, or I'll buy it a couple weeks after it comes out. They're going after that crowd that wants the 3 days early access, And on the opposite end, that crowd that's never played anything from that franchise before, because you want new buy-in. So yeah,
Let's see here. We also have.
do we have any saucy ones?
Oh, well, there were some that were really saucy that I just did not
Maybe we should
take because I don't ever
read
want to
those
like
later.
I don't ever want to like get on here and
Yeah,
throw stones at somebody that can't throw stones back. Even with this commenter that I disagreed with here, I don't want you to think that we're coming down on you. We're just
right.
kind of better articulating where we're falling on this, why
I
we
enjoy
think what
being
we're thinking.
disagreed with.
Huh?
Because I'd like to. I enjoy being disagreed with.
Well, yeah,
because
yeah, exactly. That's what we want to have
Yeah.
these conversations, and that's why we like to do these viewer comment sections, because that way we can get a little bit deeper into it and be a little bit
Yeah.
more detailed in our reasoning and our rationale for it.
So
You
we
are
don't come
absolutely
off
allowed
all
to disagree with
Pitchford.
us.
I don't want to come off all Pitchford on people. So
Yeah, right. Don't want to be
I'll
all
make you
elitist.
Randy, baby.
Let's see. Let me try to get through some of these a little bit quicker here. Let's see. Daniel,
Oof.
Daniel
Somebody make-
Pockrus, Pockrus.
Yes.
He says, honestly, the price isn't that much of a concern to me. What concerns me is the terms of service you have to agree to in order to play the game. That stuff is scary. And
There's one
that
of those guys in every group, man.
Well, but I agree with that guy, because we just recently talked about how Nintendo with the
As I
Nintendo
said.
Switch 2, like just before Nintendo Switch 2 launch, they snuck into their terms of service that they can brick your console. So the console that I have in my bedroom right now, if they chose, which I mean they say like, oh, if you violate the terms of service, but the terms of service are, it's like 16 issues of War and Peace stacked on top of one
Yeah.
another, right? Like you can't, and so whenever and some of these things are very specific, others are very broad. So basically, whenever they say, whenever you violate the terms of service, really what they're saying is at our discretion, because
Yeah.
they can say that you violated any kind of thing. So basically, at their discretion, they can brick your console, and that is wild. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So some of these things are absolutely insane that we agree to on here. Do you have anything to add to that while I?
No, I just, other than the fact that while you were talking earlier, I saw your son walk in there and grab your Switch too, but from behind you. But
Let's see here. So I think this might be one of the last ones on the Borderlands, but this is from Shades 909. He says, I personally do not care about the cost if it is something I think is worth it. And after
Right.
Borderlands 3, I am on the fence with paying $80 for Borderlands 4. I lived through the Nintendo
Understood.
64 era and the really expensive physical games. Some games were as high as $130, and I still bought a bunch of them because back then I knew that I would have a great time with the games. But nowadays, buying a AAA game is basically a gamble, and I am not a gamble guy. I am not going to put $80 on something without knowing what I get. That's personally my issues with many game developers nowadays. It was common before for developers to show gameplay of their games, but nowadays it is all cinematic and curated gameplay clips, at least when it comes to big AAA games. And I 100% agree with this one.
So I'm pretty sure this guy's close to my age because he talked about buying his own Nintendo 64 games. So you have to be a decent age to have been purchasing your own 64. And he's absolutely right. Nowadays, we don't even know when we buy a AAA game if we're getting the whole game, which is,
Yep.
I mean, that's shit. And for the PC crowd, this is the equivalent. If you're trying to understand the console world, for the PC crowd, this is the equivalent of a game being in early access for a year. And it's like, when is it coming out? Maybe never. So,
Well, and
absolutely, this guy's dead on balls accurate with his statement.
100%, I agree. And it's like one of those things, as you grow older, you become even more concerned with quality in all things, like wallets. Like instead of buying this, instead of buying one wallet every year and waiting for it to wear out, you begin to do research and you find a really good wallet that's going to last you decades. And you start to buy stuff that maybe it's more expensive, but it's better quality, so you don't mind the expense because of the quality that you're getting. So, and that's in all
Longevity that
things.
you're getting.
Yeah, and so that's a thing that absolutely happens. But like you said, now you don't have that guarantee that what you're buying is quality. Like Jay said, sometimes it's not even a complete game. Sometimes, like Anthem, you play their alpha, which is essentially a demo, right? You play that and you're like, oh man, this looks great. Give me more of this. Absolutely. Then the game launches. You're like, oh, that was all of
whole
it. That was
game.
the entirety of the story. Was that right there?
Man, and you still every time you bring that game up, it's like you're just twisting the knife. I swear to God,
Hey
because
man, I convinced multiple people to buy that game. I'm still sorry. Sevi, Chad, I apologize. That's on me. That's
and
on me.
I don't want to go off on, but man, it was what we did get was really good. It just we didn't get any more.
Aspects of what we got were really good.
So
Aspects of what we got were really good. Um, so let's see. Just got a few more here. So now these branch into other videos that we've done. So these are from 3 separate videos. So these last 3 comments are from 3 separate videos. So we've got video from our GTA video. We've got one from our Marathon Bungie video, and we've got one from our most recent Cyberpunk video. Which one do you want to hit first?
real quick, I just want to say this to everybody that ends up watching this episode. That Cyberpunk video was definitely, without a doubt, the best video you've done. And to be clear to everybody else watching, he does 100% of these, putting these shorts together, and that was so professional, dude. And I just want to
Well,
say
thank you.
you. I
Well,
want to say
thank you for the
and I
kind
want
words, sir.
everybody else to hear a big thank you to you too as well. But let's start with that one since I already brought it up. But go ahead.
Sure. No, this one's interesting, and this one is a good one that I think will be good to clear up because it's actually 2 comments. It's a main comment, and then we get a follow up with someone else after that. So, Jagged Jack 1 says, and again, this is in regards to the Cyberpunk. So he's talking about the original Cyberpunk. He said, Cyberpunk 2077. So he said, I played it on PC on launch day and had an incredible experience. It ran well on my RTX 2080, and I don't remember any bugs at all. So PC wasn't bad for everyone. I then replied to him and I said, yeah, obviously my experience was fine because Jay and I both talked about our experiences and how we didn't have the issues that a lot of people did. And so I said, obviously my experience was fine. And I had friends with experiences from absolutely no issues to not being able to play because of constant and immediate crashes. But to come back to the point that we'll all be excited about the sequel, well done for CD Projekt Red because they were able to pull it out after such a disastrous launch. Then Silbury 2325 came and said, I'm sure somebody actually enjoyed No Man's Sky when it launched. That doesn't change the fact that they wronged players. And so this is one thing that I wanted to clarify, in that just because I didn't have a bad launch experience and Jay didn't have a bad launch experience, that was by no means trying to justify the state that the game launched
Yeah.
in. Even though I did not experience those issues, I was aware of them. We heard it, we saw it. So yeah, by no means were we saying like, "Oh, what's the big deal, guys? Everything's just fine. It worked for me, so it worked for everybody." By no means. We were lucky, but we just wanted to throw those in there. But we acknowledged the horrific state that it launched in. That was the whole point of the video.
Yeah, and I avoided bringing up my PC experience with the game because I just built my PC last year, and to avoid this turning into which RTX card, NVIDIA card is better, I play on a 40 series, and I'm going to leave it at that. And I've had nothing but a wonderful time, but I didn't feel like I was in a place during that segment to talk about the PC version, and it is beautiful. It's gorgeous. But again, I've only been playing it for less than a year on PC.
Yeah,
So,
so
yeah.
we were not trying to say that ours were representative, and much like you
Yeah.
said, I'm sure there were people that had a fine time with the or Hello Games and No Man's Sky was a bit of a different beast because they had fewer bugs. Like it released pretty bug free. Their issue was that they didn't deliver on a lot of the promises
Features,
that they had
yeah.
actually made.
Yeah.
Whereas Cyberpunk was riddled with bugs. But so yeah, I'm sure that there were people that were satisfied with what little they got from No Man's Sky. But yeah, does not excuse the state that it launched in, where it didn't have all these features that we were told we would have. So
Right.
yeah, we were not saying like, oh yeah, we had a great time, so why is everybody complaining? We were very aware of that, and that was why we had the conversation about how impressive it was that CD Projekt Red was able to pull it out. So we have 2 more. So I'm going to go with the Marathon one because I think we might be able to have some fun with the GTA one. So Marathon. And so this is where we're talking about the Marathon art theft scandal,
Scandal.
which we looked at some of the examples and it
Yes.
was
Yeah.
inexcusable and blatant. I mean,
I
there was
mean,
no question. And of course, Bungie then came out and said, "Yeah, we did that. That
yeah,
is our bad."
you wouldn't have needed a jury if that was in a courtroom.
Oh
The
yeah,
judge could have just went, "Yeah, bro, seriously,
yeah. It was
guilty."
absolutely blatant. So
Yeah,
Jared Thompson, 18, says Marathon is doomed, and Bungie likely can't or won't turn it around. They've consistently prioritized profit over their community,
that's
and we
true.
all know how that story ends. Player bases vanish. It's genuinely sad to see what Bungie has become. So many talented developers poured their hearts into Halo and Destiny, building something special with the fans, but in the end, greedy leadership seems to be writing the final chapter. As a longtime fan of both Halo and Destiny, it's painful to watch a company with so much potential fall victim to its own corporate decisions. I hope all the wonderful employees at Bungie land great gigs and continue to be creative. And I will, first of all, this was incredibly well written from
Yeah,
Jared, and I could not agree with this anymore.
yeah.
Um, 100%. I so on everything to attack his first little paragraph here. Yeah, I think Marathon's doomed. I think Marathon's DOA. It's not. It was already troubled in that it just wasn't connecting. It felt everybody that played it, they had some of these sort of closed betas and things like that, and everybody's like, it's missing a hook. But then after some of this PR around the art theft, I don't see this thing. Even if it does launch, I think it's going to be a flop. I
And I think he was right about the profit piece because
Oh sure.
I immediately think of Blizzard with Diablo 4 and how bad they just jumped the shark with that thing, man. Because it was like, what the
Well,
hell are you guys
Bungie,
thinking?
the leader of the head guy at Bungie, he's been outed as like he's spent all this money on all these cars. He has this collection of his cars on this website where you can show all your different. So I mean, this dude is the epitome of greed. And it's like, hey, it's your money. You can do with it what you want. But
Right.
it's clear that this is
That's your
your
drive.
motivation is
Yeah.
this money thing, and you're instead of focusing on your community and letting the money come, you are chasing that money and seeing how much you can milk your community for it. And like Jared mentions, when you do that, instead of, oh, we just have these cows that we can milk for more money, more money, more money. No, they're not cattle that you can just milk in perpetuity. They're gonna
Right.
leave. And that's what they're doing.
And see,
They're leaving Destiny
that's
already.
what I love about people like, and I know this, this will probably generate its own comments, but you look at Todd Howard, and I've brought him up a couple times, but like him or hate him, dude, that guy loves games and he loves his team and he loves his company. And is everything they do on point? No, it's not. But man, I always think he is at least at best trying to service the game he wants. Yeah, Starfield is kind of a mess, but dude, he had a big dream and they didn't deliver. And I think it's another one of those games that's going to be turning it around. I really feel like it. That their new
I
DLC is actually really good.
I would rather a creative miss because of how high they aimed,
Right.
as opposed to simply just giving you something unambitious, uninspired, and without heart.
Yeah.
So
Just
I
so
would
they
I,
can
would-
money
I would
grab.
rather take a Todd Howard failure where he swung for the fences and missed
Yeah.
than something like this from Bungie where they're just throwing something out to try to find a way to milk people for more money.
Throwing the spaghetti on the wall to see if it sticks.
Yep, and then to end off with his last point, that unfortunately, whenever all this happens, these officials, CEOs, all this stuff, they got the golden parachute, man.
Yeah.
They will fail forward, and they will fail upward, and they will get jobs elsewhere and do all this. The people that it really hurts is the real devs, the
Yeah.
people in the trenches, the coders, the artists. These are the people that it hits the hardest, and that's what sucks. Is that when Bungie either completely goes under or has to do layoffs, it's gonna be those people that get hit by it, and they're the heart and soul of the company because the soul is gone from everybody above them. But that's what really sucks is that it hits them the hardest. So, excuse me. Last one, and this is to our Grand Theft Auto 6 video where we went through the website, which was lesser covered whenever it came to a lot of videos. Didn't see videos covering the website. And I know there was a lot of Reddit prowlers and things like that where they went over it, but we kind of went through the website. We went through the different locations and what we saw in the images and kind of speculated as to what that meant for the game, and getting excited over some of the things that we loved about Red Dead Redemption 2 being brought into the game by all appearances. So we had this, and we looked at some different things that you might miss if you didn't click on the picture and view the whole image. So this is in response to that. And one, I made the point, I zoomed in on an image, and it was this image from the Vice City, and it was an arrest of not your character. So it was NPC characters that were being arrested, and it had someone on his knees with his hands up. And this, as we pointed out, is not something that had been in GTA before. There would be this thing where they could do that kind of sort of thing with you, but not with NPCs. So we have Queen Beater, that's Beater, like leader. So Queen Beater said, if it were so minor, the cops in GTA 5 were able to surround you and your vehicle and arrest you, and you could either comply or not. So yes, that they could do that with you, not NPCs, but for you, yes, they could absolutely do that. And he says, which would usually lead to you just getting shot if you didn't. Yeah. He said the issue wasn't that it lacked arrests. It just, which whenever I don't think I clarified in that video, but while I was talking about there were no arrests of NPCs. So he did get me there. I did not clarify my point there well enough. But he said the issue wasn't that it lacked arrests. It just lacked proper police practices and AI training. What will revolutionize GTA 6's law enforcement would be believable standoffs and de-escalation tactics, and AI that won't just instantly resort to lethal force for every little thing. The situation should have to be minor. Hold on. Oh, sorry. The situation should have to mirror the need for firearm involvement, and having less lethal would be a nice touch for resisting basic arrest for long enough without brandishing a firearm. So this was something that was interesting. So while I was talking about arresting NPCs being something new, he's talking about better, smarter tactics for you. And I thought this was a really interesting thing where in GTA 3, and this was de-emphasized and completely done away with in later GTAs, but you used to be able to like go to a convenience store and walk into a convenience store and rob that convenience store. And
which I love doing, by the way. That was like one of my favorite loops, is hitting all the easy marks on the.
Yeah, and that was the thing that you could do, and that was the way that you could get money, easy money. And
Yeah.
it would create a situation, cops would come, so you could then like hang out there, but then you'd have to run out to your car and leave. But this would be interesting if you could initiate like a hostage situation or a standoff, or like you said, where they would have to de-escalate. Maybe you could bargain. Do I think that they will do that? No. But man, that would be cool. I would love to see that kind of stuff where you could basically, if they could get to that point, you could basically have these sort of heat movie level escapades of your own making anytime you wanted to. You could just get into like a barber shop or something like that and hold somebody up and create this big hostage situation. So I thought that was an interesting thought exercise. Like I said, I don't think they'll have it in there. I wish, who knows, they could do something like that. But I think that would be a really fun thing to actually have in some de-escalation practices and things like that, negotiations. I thought that might be fun. Got anything else?
I don't, man. I actually ended up delving into some, and I don't really want to admit this because it'll turn into a 20-minute conversation, but I delved into some more GTA 6 gameplay, and oddly enough, I kind of did it from the angle of having lived down there and trying to find like landmarks and stuff that I know, and there was a lot in there to be had. There was a lot of places where I was like, oh my god, I went right by there, and I saw some footage, and I don't know if it was real or not, of uh, a, a police shootout and chase scene through the streets. And the cops were chasing the guys in the car, and one of the guys is leaning out firing his submachine gun, and it looked like it was in the Brickell area of Miami, and it looked really cool, dude. It looked so hyper realistic. I don't even know what to say. It was kind of crazy. So yeah, there's part of me, a really small little corner right now, just a little nugget that's a little bit excited about it, just a little bit. So
We
yeah,
got
that
him,
kind of
guys. We got
yeah,
him.
you don't. You may think you do, but you don't. Not to mention, we're so. Do you realize how pounded down with releases we are between June and September?
Our
Uh,
cup runneth over.
Death
Yeah.
Stranding, Metal Gear Solid, Delta. I mean, just Gears of War Reloaded. I mean, it's just insane, man.
I do love anytime that I see a listing for Metal Gear Solid that they are using the Delta symbol instead of the word Delta, so
Yeah,
that anytime we see it listed, it's this really bizarre looking character that the website's not formatted to properly display, or or it displays some error like question mark because it can't display the Delta symbol. Gotta love that. Gotta love that.
part of me is still the nostalgia piece of me is still a little bit pissed off. It's not Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, because that's what the original game was. And for people that maybe were too young or whatever, chronologically, this is the first game. If you're talking about
Your big
year for
boss.
year yeah, this is the first game. So
Big boss before he was big
definitely,
boss.
even if you're remotely interested, this is the game that started it all,
But
really,
that's
even though it didn't.
probably, I don't know. So now that they don't have Kojima to be the brain trust there anymore,
Right.
because this was, and they've already proven their inability to do anything with it now that Kojima's gone with that, whatever that was, that atrocity they released, where it was like zombies and multiplayer things with Metal
Oh,
Gear Solid.
Survive.
Yeah, we've seen what they do with it. So
Yeah,
maybe that's why they called it Delta as opposed to 3, is because maybe they're just going to recreate the various releases in order and
which would be
start
wonderful.
start with Delta, and then work their way through the others. So we'll see, but it looks great. I definitely would not. I wouldn't support or trust another Metal Gear game that was not from the brain of Hideo Kojima, because without that, there's no. But he did this one. He did 3. Now he wasn't
Yeah.
at the helm of the remake, but I'm willing though to do this one.
Now, does the Switch have access to the entirety of the backward compatible Nintendo library?
That I don't know. I haven't delved into it to see like the SNES and all that stuff whenever Metal
Well,
Gear was on
not
those.
that. I'm talking GameCube because, folks, if you can get your hands on what was one of the finest GameCubes ever, which was Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, and it was Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 on the same in the same game. And it actually had a upscale in graphics, believe it or not, for the GameCube. So I don't know if Nintendo does it, but man, I got to tell you, if you wanted to convince me to get a Switch, that'd be the way to do it.
I'll have to look and
Uh,
tell you what I find out.
but yeah, so technically, yeah, three will be Delta will be the first one. So if you're trying to get into Metal Gear, this is the way to do it. Come August.
All right. Well, that's all I had on my list. It has been a wild one of a week. Hopefully, it kind of calms down. But like we said, we got some fun stuff coming up this week with the Summer Games Fest and the
Yeah.
Xbox Showcase and the upcoming thing for 007 First Light, the gameplay reveal. So, yeah, Jay and I will be doing something with that so we can release a video. Maybe we'll watch both the sort of story reveal that we got in the state of play, and then do a look at gameplay and then talk about what it all means together. Maybe that's the approach we'll take. But we're going to do something special for that one because we're both stoked about it. We did the
Yes.
same thing for Randy Pitchford's apology, and this one will be a lot more fun than that one. So
I'll go out. I'll go all out for that tomorrow, man. I'll be pulling out some James Bond, uh, media for us to go through to
well,
get
I,
psyched up
I'll
on.
I'll also I'll grab the videos, and I'll remove the music so that we can play them
Yes,
without angering
which
the
is
the
sad because it's just that
the
music's
DMCA.
necessary.
I know it sucks, but it's better than playing it on mute. So I don't want to anger the DMCA gods.
While you're talking, I'm just going to be in with a real low volume doing the actual bump bump.
Dun, 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 dun.
I
Yeah.
got to tell you too, man. You brought up the Xbox Showcase, and I realize this will turn us into huge hypocrites on Borderlands. But if they announce it as a day one Game Pass game, Guess
I don't
what,
think we
guys?
have to worry too much about that one.
I just paid 0 for Borderlands. So anyway, man, that's all I got.
Well, thank you, Jay. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, we appreciate it. It has been an exhausting week for both Jay and I. So we appreciate you guys sticking with us and talking with us through the comments. It's been fun. And yeah, we look forward to getting you some interesting content this week. Looking forward to the 007 First Light stuff. So anyways, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Later.